and a great team to work with, and that gives me that control over my time to say that if I today want to spend this time doing a podcast, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to do.
Hello, lovely people, and welcome back to Parenthood with Neha, where we dive deep into the messy, beautiful, and ever evolving world of parenthood. Each week, we sit down with parents who share their real, unfiltered experiences, the moments of joy, the unexpected challenges, and the lessons that shape both our children and ourselves. Today, I have with me someone whose journey as a parent, a professional, and a traveler offers a fascinating glimpse into the dynamic balance of nurturing and personal growth. Joining me is Pooja Sardana, a strategy and marketing consultant, a mother to two, 13-year-old Sarah and 10-year-old Kabir, and an adventurer at heart. Pooja is also the voice behind The Backpacking Mama, a blog where she shares her experiences traveling with kids. Through our conversation today, we'll talk about her approach to parenting, how it's evolved over the years, the way she's recalibrated along the way, and what it means to truly enjoy the journey. We'll also dive into her love for travel, how it has shaped her children, the surprises that come with raising two very different kids, and the lessons she's picked up from books, experience, and intuition. Pooja, welcome to Parenthood. So excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Neha. I'm quite excited about this too. Give me a chance to speak and I'll always take it.
So let's get started. If your life were a book, what would its title be, and where do you think you are in that story right now?
Wow. Okay. If my life were a book. So interestingly enough, I think beautiful mistakes
Uh-huh.
is what
Wow.
I call the first 40 years of my life, because I think things have happened by less intent and more happy accidents, in the sense that things happened to me till about a few years ago. It's only the last few years that I have started recognizing even the things that I have done intentionally to be intentional.
Right.
So, for an example, my husband and I, we got together. It wasn't really a very thought through selection criteria. It was
Yeah.
pretty much like, oh, this is working, ting, the 90s ghanti behna wala moment and all of that. Even with kids, it's been pretty intuitive how the fact that I have two kids is pretty, in that sense, yeah, we did want kids and we thought we'd have multiple. But
Yeah.
when they happened, it was pretty much okay, let's have a kid right now, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
We've adopted a cat again, pretty impulsive in that sense. So, yeah, I think happy accidents and beautiful mistakes that have made my life.
Wow. Sounds
And
beautiful. Mhm. And where are
yeah.
you in that journey right now?
Yeah, I'm in that journey with a teen and a preteen. So I think Tell Me Now is chapter 13.
And you touched upon all the members of your family. So tell us more about them. How are they like? How are Sarah and Kabir? How's Mohit, your partner? How's the cat?
Yeah. So, Mohit, my partner, is, I think, one of the most amazing things that has happened to me. And like I said, it wasn't that intentional. I met him at B school. We were both in the same section. And I remember having a fairly sheltered upbringing. I was in a girls' school throughout. And then, a brief period of college where I discovered, oh, I have freedom and I
Uh-huh.
have a voice. And then straight on to B school. But I was very, very focused. My mom is a single parent, and I was brought up with this whole philosophy of you have to be independent and stand on your own two feet. So, blinkers on, focus on getting a good job and, that kind of thing. So I never really did think of anything other than my studies and academic achievement and what's the next step, what's the next step. And when I met Mohit, it was almost it was literally like that flash of a feeling
Yeah.
saying that, oh, this is it. I have been waiting for you, and now here you are.
Right.
And it was just that, and I hadn't spoken to him till then. I didn't speak to him immediately after, but things panned out, and we started hanging out together and realized that okay, this is working well. So in my head, it was jump straight from, look to marriage.
Yeah.
And I remember when he asked me out for the first time, I went and told him that, my parents are separated. If that's going to be a problem future, me, so then let's not start something. And he was like, what? I just asked you out for ice cream. So yeah, but I think that's been one of the best things that happened to me, because I think we are very nicely complementary to each other. He's got this excitement and that passion for sports and travel, and this optimism around life, whereas I am this more philosophical and introspective and staid person. So we kind of nicely balance each other out, and that works out well. So that's about him. My kids, if I hadn't pushed them both out myself, I wouldn't believe they belong to me,
Wow.
because they're so different. You'd imagine that you're two people having two children, they'd be more or less similar,
Yeah.
but they are chalk and cheese. So Sarah is this deep thinker. She's
Wow.
wonderful and sensitive and creative and imaginative and very, very caring, child, and very bold in the choices that she wants to make, and you know very independent.
Right.
uh, she wants to make decisions on her own. She doesn't want to conform to routines. She gets really excited about something, and then she'll go deep into it. So I remember when she was about, I think, 8 or 10 years old, she went into this phase of stop motion pictures.
Right.
And for months together, on top of her bed, she made a studio, and she used to just keep making motion pictures,
Wow.
stop motion. Now she's got into this whole thing of baking. So every day we have a new type of cookie to try out. So it's a joy to see her grow. But she's also 13,
Yeah.
and that also translates to things like deciding to wax her eyebrows without consulting me at all. And I'm like, come back home, and what happened here? Fortunately, I think with YouTube and everything, she does a good job of whatever she does. But yeah, reaching home to find your child has decided to wax their eyebrows, ouch. But she's also an introvert, so she's mostly in herself, and she'll spend a lot of time in her room with the door closed and things like that. And Kabir is the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
He is dirt and noise running around the house.
Right.
He's like this loud, very forceful, headstrong negotiator kind of a person who believes that in pushing boundaries.
Right.
So you're saying no is the start of the negotiation for him,
Yeah.
and he will then push and push and push and push till some sort of a compromise is reached. So he doesn't give up easily at all, whereas Sarah needs to be told once, and she'll then work around those boundaries. Kabir pushes boundaries. So I remember he must have been 5 years old when he decided that he wanted to sleep with a lighter under his pillow.
Wow.
And there are these two adults, Mohit and I, standing and bearing down on him and saying, no, this is not going to happen. And this 5-year-old chit of a boy has the temerity to say, wait, let me think about it.
Wow.
He went, he thought about it, and he came back and he said, okay, I will keep it next to my pillow, not under my pillow. So he's this person who's really got this knack of holding on to his own thoughts,
Right.
and very well with adults. I don't think he deals so well with kids, but with adults, he's going around cycling, and he's telling the women, "Hi, you're looking so cool today, auntie," and
Wow.
yeah. And at the club, he'll go and he'll walk in. If someone asks him something, why don't you join us for coffee? So they both go to the same school, and one day I had to deliver something for Sarah because she'd forgotten it. So I went to the reception and I told them that, this is for Sarah. She's in such and such grade, and they're like, "Oh, acha, ye wo." They're trying to place who she is, and then I say, "I'm also Kabir Sardana's mother," and immediately there's like batti jal gayi ki, "Acha, Kabir. Oh, okay, okay, okay. Yes, yes." So I'm now better known as Kabir Sardana's mother than my own identity. So they're that very different in that sense.
Yeah.
And of course, there is Oreo, our cat,
Mhm.
who's with us thanks to Sarah. We'd never considered having a cat, but Tara's really fond of animals, and I was very clear that a dog is quite a lot of responsibility,
Yeah.
and with two kids, I don't think I'm in a position to take that up, and it would be unfair to bring in
Yeah.
someone into our house if we can't really do right by them. So I was completely against it. But this girl, she used to go around feeding all the kittens in the society, um, and at that time we also realized that because so Kabir had some challenges. He had to go through brain surgery, etc., and for a good couple of years I was so involved with him that I knew that I was neglecting Sarah.
Right.
And it just felt like having a cat will be a good idea because she'll have someone to hold on to at
Right.
that point in time. And she rescued this cat who'd kind of hurt his paw. And once you've got him into the house and taken him to the vet, and now he needs to recover for a week, and he stays in a house and recovers, there's no way that cat is going back out.
Sure.
So there is Oreo, who's now a part of our lives, though he is closest to Sarah. It feels like we occupy his house, not the other way around. But yeah, that's us. And there is, of course, our army of helpers.
Yeah.
So we have three didis who come in, and they're also pretty much part of our household. I don't think our house would be as well equipped, and I would be as happy if I didn't have the support of these three women in my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our whole house.
Beautiful, beautiful. And what I'm very interested to know, Pooja, is how you and Mohit are as co-parents, because you need to be a team when it comes to raising those little kids. So you said you are very different and complementary as people. So how would you say your relationship is when it comes to parenting and co-parenting?
So I think one of the things that doesn't get talked about as much about parenting is what it does to your relationships.
Yeah.
So when you think about parenting and people sharing, there's a lot of conversation that ends up happening about the kids themselves and your
Yeah.
experiences with them, and how you want to think about parenting. It's a very active conversation. But how your relationships change becoming a parent is not such an active conversation. And I think it's true for all relationships. But you and your partner, I think, it's just, I think I read this in Michelle Obama's book where she says that, like, becoming a parent is like you take this car with a claw and shake it all up. And if there's anything loose,
Yeah.
it's going to come out then.
Yeah.
And I think parenting is like that. I very much admire her use of that analogy because, while Mohit and I were very well matched in that sense, becoming parents had that jolting effect on us
Yeah.
because you don't know what you're getting into at all. You've like you said, you've seen it from afar, but
Yeah.
until it happens to you, you don't really realize how you change as a person.
Yeah.
And a lot of times how your childhood experiences start playing out in your parenting journey and in your relationship with your partner.
Yeah.
So just as an example, my parents separated when I was a teen, when I was 12. My brother was 6. And before that, also, he was pretty much absent. And therefore, in my mind, there are only two types of parents. One that is fully involved, which is what my mother had to do, who's there constantly with the kids every step of the way. And the other type of parent is the absentee parent,
Yeah.
who's just not there, who doesn't care. And when I saw, obviously, then I modeled that for my children also, that I was very involved. I didn't have any nannies in the first few years at all, and I used to do every single thing for them myself. And to the extent of, if they're playing, in the corridor, I wanted to stand there and be available. Just because my son or daughter wants to learn to climb up and down the stairs, I want to be there. And
Right.
when I used to tell Mohit that, it's a stretch for me, can you please step in, and be there, he used to feel like, this is not a value add thing. Why do you need me to stand there when the child is learning to crawl? You can
Yeah.
actually outsource, just get some help. And that's a perfectly okay thing to say, but in my mind at that time, I just, without even realizing, said, oh, this is the absentee parent, he is
Right.
playing a bad parent because he's not as involved as I am.
Right.
And I think it took us a good decade
Wow.
to recognize that we were both at very different places as parents, and neither of us was able to understand where the other was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So I was constantly coming from being a very intentional, heavily involved parent, as if it is something that I have to actively do every single day of my life.
Right.
Whereas Mohit was more in the space of, kids are going to grow. I need to be there for the important times. So he was very involved when it came to school admissions, when it came to, getting the kids into sport, or whenever we had to take any important decisions, he was there. But he didn't see parenting as being so actively involved, and he felt that I was overdoing it. While I
Right.
felt that he was, not doing enough.
Yeah.
And a lot of our conflict over those 10, 12 years came because we didn't end up communicating this with each other.
Yeah.
So while we were a loving couple and never did we feel the absence of love between us, somewhere we also realized, or maybe didn't realize, that there was a huge chasm
Yeah.
of how we take this joint responsibility.
Yeah.
So that, I think, now in hindsight, I see, oh, those were tough years. And, now that I can see that there was a better way of doing it, because
Mm-hmm.
we're now actively conversing about these things, we are a lot more involved in conversations. We actually discuss every single thing now. I can
Right.
see that, okay, this is a much better way of doing it.
Right.
Why did I not do all of this earlier?
Yeah.
But I guess it takes time. You just don't realize it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been an interesting journey of co-parenting with him. We are in a really good place now. So our things that work for us are things like, particularly with the teen daughter now, they're excellent at playing parents against each other. Both of them, they're brilliant. I mean, they should be put in Jayashankar's place. They'll probably, be able to handle national conflict better, because they know exactly what to tell each parent.
Yeah.
They know that I end up playing the strict one. They know that Mohit is more indulgent and therefore more likely to say yes to most things. They know that he enjoys the good things. So he's happy to say, okay, come, let me take you shopping and all.
Yeah.
But he's equally, he can, when he loses it, he gets angry. He's also
Yeah.
equally this thing about strict about academic performance, whereas I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, as long as you're learning, it doesn't matter whether you're getting a or a D. So they know whom to play for what
Yeah.
matter, and we can literally get away with anything till we joined forces and we said that,
Right.
okay, we need to help each other.
Yeah.
We need to be a team. So I
Yeah.
think that's what we do now. We parent as a team,
Mm-hmm.
whereas we were parenting as individuals earlier. And I
Yeah.
think maybe that wasn't the best thing. It worked out well for us, okay, well,
Yeah.
but that's not the best approach, I'd say.
Yeah, but it's very interesting that you said that. But what I am curious about is, Pooja, you said now you realize. Was that realization gradual, or it just was instigated by some incident, or it just happened very, very gradually, organically?
I think there were two things to it. One was, like I said, I kind of started growing up only after I was 40. It's a strange thing to say, but but it's true, because I always had this thing of, oh, I'll turn into Meryl Streep when I'm 40 suddenly. And it doesn't happen like that. You just don't overnight become mature and confident and comfortable in your skin. I had to work at it. And In that time also there was a lot of churn, because Kabir, he used to suffer from epilepsy, and he was a very demanding child to raise, because he
Right.
was very, very, very headstrong. And I just didn't know how to deal. It was difficult. So there was that. Then there was this whole work life balance thingy that was happening. Then I also chose to start a venture during those years. And also this personal thing of not being able to parent together as a team.
Right.
All of this played a lot on my life and my outlook, and I realized that I started getting really, really angry. So
Mm-hmm.
it was during, I think it was my daughter's birthday during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
when um, one day I had to go to office for something, and I was uh, going out, and Kabir called out to me, and I was so angry. I just threw my bag and I turned around to him. I said, "Ab kya hai?"
Hmm.
And he ran and he hid behind Mohit.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, that doesn't look right.
Hmm.
And within the next 1 or 2 days, I went yelling at my daughter, "But you take so long to have a bath. What on earth takes you half an hour?" And I barged into the bathroom, and I saw her telling herself, "It's okay, it's okay, it's okay." And again, that was like a. Then I asked her what happened, and she said, "I'm just calming myself down."
Wow.
And I realized that the impact of my anger on these children was scary.
Yeah.
It, I think it's one of the most shameful things for me to recall, because I always thought I'm a good mom. Um, and This is what I was doing to them. I
Yeah.
mean, on one hand, I thought that here I am, this intentional parent who's so mindful, who's making time to read books, who's making time to play, who's doing everything. And yet, more than what I'm, doing as a parent, how I behave
Hmm.
is part of how I'm raising them.
Right.
And that just struck me. And I said, this is something I have to take accountability for and fix. And I started taking therapy.
Yeah.
I think that really helped me manage my own emotions, get in touch with what's uncomfortable for me, what I need to look at, what I need to look at in my relationship.
Yeah.
And as I started looking at myself closely, I started applying some of those principles to my relationship. And
Yeah.
I realized that, it's the same thing with Mohit as well, where I'm shouting and screaming and shutting him down, and
Yeah.
which means that we are not communicating enough.
Yeah.
And he also realized that, he's withdrawing,
Hmm.
which is not the best way to respond. I mean, I know it would have been difficult for him, but probably would have been better for him to call out and say that I'm not okay with how you're behaving,
Yeah.
rather than saying, it's okay, I love her so much, I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
This thing of, I love you so much that I'm willing to put up with it, is not actually the best way to deal with a loved one. I
Yeah.
think a better way is to call it out and say that this is what you're doing to me. This is how your reaction is doing to me, is affecting me and people around you.
Yeah.
So I think he also realized that, and we started calling each other out
Hmm.
on things that we thought were not adding value, which were making the relationship weaker.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of that, we started talking a lot more about parenting
Mm-hmm.
and openly discussing things. And I think that kind of really worked. So, for instance, for the longest time, I'm quite I wouldn't say anti-allopathic medicine,
Mm-hmm.
but I would treat it with a lot of caution
Yeah.
and a lot of skepticism.
Mm-hmm.
And because the son was epileptic, and I was deep into this whole homeopathy, naturopathy things, and I wouldn't give them a crocin or an antibiotic even till date.
Mm-hmm.
I refer to my naturopath doc for every single thing. Even for his epilepsy, I pushed a lot to see, is there a more natural solution.
Yeah.
But he had to go on medication, and I think that was a bit of conflict for Mohit and for me.
Yeah.
And deciding that he has to go for surgery, which
Yeah.
I just found it really tough to wrap my head around. If he hadn't been having these conversations, I think it would have come to a lot of clash.
Yeah.
But I think I shared how I think, he shared why he thinks differently, and we shared with each other how the others response to each other's philosophy makes
Yeah.
us feel. That actually helped us make progress and align more comfortably on saying that, okay, in the whole scheme of things,
Yeah.
we jointly think this is the best way to take it forward.
Yeah.
So I think some of these conversations, they feel contrived. People say that, you need to talk about it, and I used to feel like, kya baat karni hai yaar, matlab you're talking to your, you want things to be spontaneous, you want, the
Yeah.
fun and the banter and the teasing and the, you want that element. It was great for when you were dating and maybe the first few years of your marriage, but as parents,
Yeah.
that tonality of the relationship needs to change. You
Yeah.
actually need to have the tough conversations about how you feel, how you make decisions. And yeah, I think as I started growing up and asking some of those questions and started being more vulnerable with him, he reciprocated, and we kind of then got into a better space.
Yeah, sounds wonderful. And you also said, you mentioned therapy, and I'm glad you did. But you also said to me earlier, Pooja, that you read a lot of parenting books. So did they help? Uh, I mean,
I
were
read,
there any that?
I read, I read a lot. So I remember there are a few people who've had a very big role to play in my journey as a parent. A very good friend of mine, Mala, who's mom to three sons.
Mm-hmm.
She's been instrumental in my journey. My very good friend Anu, who's now in Dubai, and I wish she were here. And this senior colleague of mine, Charu,
Mm-hmm.
who's an adoptive parent as well. So I remember talking to Charu about, when I was expecting, and I said, Charu, I mean, these children should come with a manual. When you buy a new phone,
Yeah.
you know what has to be done. You plug in the charger, you charge the phone, you use the manual, you set it up. And this is when, the iPhone had just been introduced and all that. So we were all very excited. We used to read manuals and all of that. Why is there no manual? I mean, nature should have this way that here pops out a baby and here is a manual. You know what to do. And there isn't one. And then she recommended that I read. So must have read about 10, 12 books. So what to expect when you're expecting, what to expect in the first year, what to expect in the growing years, what to expect as teens. Then Stephen Biddulph, How to Raise Boys, How to Raise Girls. Then some of these early childhood books, which had a lot of things about mental development. Marion Stoppard, I think. I still have some of those books. So I read a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I read my mind out before, during, and after my children were sort of growing up. And I read these forums. I don't think it works anymore, but I can't recall the name also. Whispering Parents or something along those lines. Baby Whisperer. There's
Baby.
a book called Baby Whisperer and the EV Method. I read all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yes, they helped.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I think at least my generation of parents were caught between having no guide at all. So
Right.
neither did I listen to my mom because I thought I was smarter,
Mm-hmm.
nor did I have anyone else who knew better. So
Right.
I resorted to reading books to develop my point of view on parenting.
Yeah.
Um, because there is fortunately, and I think that's one of the things that I like about myself that I inherited from my mom. I'm a very nurturing person.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole thing of nurturing and loving and touching and hugging and kissing comes very naturally to me. I genuinely enjoy my children. As infants, as at every stage, I have really enjoyed my
Mm.
children. So I used to enjoy the malish and everything. I enjoyed holding them. I enjoyed feeding them. I enjoyed their giggles and everything. But I did benefit from understanding what's happening in their system.
Right.
It gave me a lot of guidance on what to do next,
Yeah.
particularly in the growing years.
Right.
So yes, what to expect really helped in the initial 3 4 months,
Mm-hmm.
because that's when the whole motherhood thing hits you like a ton of bricks. You're sleep deprived, you don't know your elbow from your backside, leave alone the child's,
Yeah.
which end is in, which end is out. It's just really confusing, and colic and everything, it's like you just don't know. And you don't know. Every time the child cries, I felt like helpless and clueless and inadequate. By the second child, I was like, okay, they just cry to entertain themselves, let them cry. But with the first, it's a different matter altogether. So everything, every step, I had a book to refer to and say, okay, how
Right.
do I look at it? Transition this period. So, and especially transition periods. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the one thing that really helped me with was every single transition. So
Mm.
there is a transition that happens at 3 months, there's a transition that happens at 6 months, there's a transition that happens at 8 months, there's a transition that happens at 5 years. Every single transition, I was a little better prepared for because I had these manuals with me.
Right.
So, for instance, this whole realization that in the ages of 5 to 6, kids become very angry and violent is because they have high hormones, they have a lot of energy, and this is when they need the dad to actively step in and play.
Right.
Or the fact that I used to expect my husband to connect with my children the way I do, with loving and giggles and all. That's not his way. And I read that children have this oxytocin released when mothers cuddle,
Yeah.
but when fathers play.
Yeah.
So the way they bond with the parent, with the father versus the mother is different, and I wouldn't have known that unless I had the book. So I knew that, okay, playtime. So the whole of the pandemic, all my children did was play dodgeball with their father. They must have broken out 20 lamps in our house, but and which would have otherwise really bothered me. But I was like, okay, this is their bonding.
Yeah.
And so if I didn't have the books, I would have viewed things very differently, and
Yeah.
I would have had a lot more self-doubt.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
books help me say, it's okay. This
Yeah.
is also another way. Mine is not the only way.
Yeah.
So they really help transitions, and they really help develop a better perspective of the range of being a good parent.
And
So yeah, they
yeah,
really helped.
sounds wonderful. And Pooja, now let's talk about you. In what ways? I'm sure you think that you have evolved, changed as a
Sorry,
person.
Neha. I know you edit later, but I need a loo break.
Oh,
So can
please.
we break for a second?
Yes, yes, please, please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, cool. Just I'm going to go offline for a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Going to resume the recording.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Okay, Pooja, let's talk about you now. I want to know you. I'm sure you must have evolved after you became a mother. In what ways do you think you can attribute your evolution in personality, your evolution in terms of who you are as a person, to your kids, to the parenting journey that you've had?
Yeah, I think this is the point where I'm going to get all philosophical. Um, I think the world would be a better place if everybody thought they were being watched by children.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they say watched by your mom, but I think it's more watched by children, and it is being watched by children. Unfortunately, doesn't seem to have the kind of effect um, that it should. But I think that the kids, each one of them differently, has made me a better person.
Mm-hmm.
I think, parenting is not something you do. A parent is who you are.
Uh-huh.
So it just influences uh, who I am, how I view things.
Yeah.
My lens has changed toward myself, toward all my relationships, toward how I view my work, to how I view my life, to how I exist in the world.
Yeah.
Um, I think the first impact that parenting had on me as a person was that I got closer to my mom,
Yeah.
because it's just how And now that I have a teen daughter, I can see how much I must have got on her nerves. So there was this good period of 15 years where I must have been a menace
Yeah.
to my mom till I became a parent, and I started, appreciating a lot more
Yeah.
of what role she has played in my life. And I listened to your podcast with, I think, Sharmishta it was, who said this very beautifully, that everything I have by way of a heart is thanks to my mom.
Yeah.
And I mean, I
Sangamitra.
realized that,
Yeah.
sorry, Shangamitra.
Sangamitra. Yeah.
Yeah, Shangamitra. And I just thought that's one of the most beautiful things that I've heard, and it holds true for me. And I didn't realize it till I became a parent.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing that, the kids, and this is Sarah obviously, did to me was become closer to my own mom and find joy in that relationship and truly value how big a role my mother has played in who I am as a person.
Yeah.
The second big thing is, I think, learning this whole philosophy of detachment,
Mm-hmm.
because, when a child is born, there is so much involvement. They take over your life, and I felt responsible for every single little thing. And I wanted to be involved and I wanted to be part. And so much of my identity became about who these kids are. And
Right.
as they're growing up, they're laying me off
Mm.
because they want to be more independent. They have a lot many more people playing a more active role
Yeah.
in their view of the world,
Yeah.
and therefore somewhere learning that you can be deeply involved in something, yet, you know distance yourself from the outcomes and learn to let go of that crazy urge to be in control. I think
Sure.
that's the other thing that parenting is
Wow.
now teaching me,
Yeah.
to say that, okay, I can do the best that I want,
Yeah.
but if Kabir is going to go and play holy every day downstairs and get completely drenched and come back because his friends are doing it, I have only so much control.
Yeah.
And if Sarah wants to try out being part of these glamorous girls gang in school and, you know, break her heart because she is not that person,
Yeah.
then she has to do it her way. I can't really do it for her. So
Yeah.
this bit of realizing that they're individuals in themselves, and much as you would want to control everything and try to make everything perfect, you can't. So that bit of being completely committed
Yeah.
and yet detached is again a philosophy that I'm living through my kids growing up. And the last thing is, of course, the way I view the world. I
Mm-hmm.
think they have made me so much more conscious of the impact one's existence has
Yeah.
on the environment, on people around you, on them directly, and being a little more mindful. I would never have sold cigarettes in my life any which way,
Mm.
but when I chose to, try my hand at going in the wild and becoming an entrepreneur, it was for a product that facilitates kids' development.
Mm-hmm.
If I feel passionate about something right now, if I feel passionate about the environment, it's because nothing that I will do to the environment will change today,
Yeah.
but hopefully it will be better for the next generation. So that long term view, the fact that your existence is not just about you, it's about something bigger.
Yeah.
I think fundamentally these are the three big philosophical changes that have happened in my life for being a parent, and of course they forced me to grow up. I
Yeah.
think nothing like children telling you that you suck at many things. You better pull up your socks and get better. So yeah, they
Yeah.
call it out. They hold a mirror to you.
Yeah.
So I remember this instance where I was cribbing to one of my friends about how my daughter shuts me out and doesn't talk and all, and I was feeling miserable. And just before that, she'd had to call me 3 times for me to open up and speak to her. And she said, "Is it a wonder that that's how your daughter behaves?" Oh. So again, you don't parent, you are a parent, whether you like it or not. They're observing and picking up things, and so you're forced to be a better person. So they've really helped me grow up.
Yeah. And
So yeah.
I'm amazed by, how clear your thoughts are now. And I mean, I'm saying now because I'm hearing them now, and you keep saying that you are growing up. So you talked about detachment, and I'm sure it also brings with it a lot of, if not a lot, at least some of me time for you, free time for you to do a lot of other things that you might have missed out on in the initial years of while they were growing up. So can you tell us about the time that you have for yourself, with yourself? How do you make time? What do you do with it? Are there any self-care rituals, so to say, that you follow to take care of yourself so that you can be a more present parent?
So, Neha, interestingly, this is one of the things that I kind of took care of right from the beginning.
Uh-huh.
I realized, I mean, it was unintentional. Now it's more intentional in the kind of work that I'm choosing, in the kind of parenting style that I'm choosing. But even unintentionally, right from the beginning, I somewhere um, intuitively perhaps kept myself equally important through all of this,
Yeah.
in the sense that traveling. I mean, travel was that is that one thing that my husband and I absolutely really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that Sarah must have been 8 weeks old when we first traveled, and
Wow.
she was about 3 months old when we went right off to Cuba, Mexico, and the West Coast.
Wow.
So with a 3 month old, we actually took like a 3 week international trip to all sorts of places,
Mm-hmm.
because that was important to us. That was important for our relationship. And I think travel for me also plays that role of that whole decompress from the daily rhythm of life. So we actually actively made time for that.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I wanted to get fitter um, after baby and all of that, I decided to train for a half marathon,
Mm-hmm.
and I did. I mean, and I didn't have help, but Mohit kind of stepped in, and he was the one who encouraged me to go for it and say, "Yes, please go every morning, go for your long runs. I'll handle the mornings."
Right.
And I made that time for me to go out and run and get some time. Um, I think the struggle happened when there were two of them.
Right.
I'm pulling back actually, but even at work. So I started working pretty much 3 months after each of the kids were born.
Wow.
And we were in the space of again, Mala that I talked about. She was instrumental, Charu was instrumental in sort of encouraging me to get back to work, saying that, you can handle it. It's not like this. You just have to be conscious about how you structure your day and your life. And so I used to make sure that I'm stepping out of office by 6,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody knew that. So I was pretty clear that, and interestingly enough, I think that's because I always did. So even before kids, I used to move out of office by 6 because I wanted to do me time. So I learned Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Before the kids were born, I used to come back and I used to have a Spanish class at 6:30 in the evenings. So I always kind of maintained that I really value leisure. I really value control over my time, and I think that's something that I maintained throughout. The time that it really suffered was when Kabir was young. For
Mm-hmm.
the first 4 years, 4 5 years of his life, I think were uh, really difficult for me, because that's when I completely lost. I mean, I thought, कि, अच्छा, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
एक बार आप संभाल लेंगे, and that didn't quite work out. He turned out to be the exact opposite. Sara was an angel
Hmm.
and very helpful and conscientious and listens, and Kabir is the exact opposite. He kind
Yeah.
of pushes his way through. I remember this one instance where I felt so shitty because we were at the airport and he was playing in the dustbin, and one of the airport staff came and told me, "Madam, आपका बच्चा dustbin में खेल रहा है." And I was like, मैं क्या करूँ, मेरी बात नहीं सुनता. I felt so stupid and ashamed saying something like that, but that was the truth of the moment. So I think those few years were where I kind of lost sense of time and everything, that's when my girl gang came to rescue.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other part, the other relationships and how they become important when you become a parent, is because they kind of pulled me out. There are these really close friends of mine, Rupal and Sugandh, who made it a point to get me out every Wednesday and say, let's go out for drinks. So I actually started drinking after my children were born.
Wow.
I didn't before that. But they're the ones who said, let's go out, let's have a drink, let's discuss. And they made me come out of that state of mind of saying that, oh, children are everything, and I have to be there 24/7. And if Mohit is not there, I can't leave them, kind of stuff. And they gave me that strength to say that, no, I am a person. I need time to decompress. And I'm going to do this every Wednesday with my girl gang.
Wow.
So it was a ritual, and Mohit knew that he had to, and he has a very demanding job. He's been with, the whole startup world. He's been with Make My Trip, and then Zomato, and now Blinkit. So his days are quite demanding, and he likes his work, and he gives himself fully to it. But he used to, he knew Wednesdays I have to come back soon because Pooja's going to go out.
Yeah.
So my girl gang really helped me make that me time during that time, and
Wow.
help me decompress and get a perspective on, I don't have to lose myself as an individual to be a
Yeah.
parent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
now, of course, I've constructed my life like that. I'm in the whole space of consulting with a very dear colleague and mentor, and we have this great understanding between us and a lot of trust, and a great team to work with, and that gives me that control over my time to say that if I today want to spend this time doing a podcast, okay,
yeah.
that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, and of course the kids growing up now, I know that, it's not that I have to make time for them,
Yeah.
it's that we all have to make time for each other.
Other. Yeah.
So
How
that focus has shifted.
Yeah, yeah. And Pooja, I'm drawn towards what you talked about travel, that you and Mohit, you both are travelers by nature and you love to travel, and that's one way you decompress. Also, I want to know about the kids and their relationship with travel, because you two hold it so dear. Has it also shaped the way they think about travel and life? Is there that kind of love for travel in the kids as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. And actually, interestingly, travel has shaped their personalities to some extent.
Hmm.
So one, we used to, and I think post pandemic we are coming back to that cadence, but we go out maybe 3 to 4 times a year.
Wow.
So there's one big June holiday, there's one big year end holiday, and in between there are these little trips that we end up taking. So there are about 4 holidays, and the kids are also kind of used to that rhythm,
Yeah.
because we all as a family start getting restless every 3 months to say, "Acha, ab kahan jana hai?" So there is that planning that's happening, and it's shaped there. So they really enjoy the whole experience of travel. They really enjoy the family time that we end up spending
Yeah.
together. I think they bond with their dad so much more about travel, because he's the driver and the engine of this whole uh,
Yeah.
travel thing. And it has shaped their personalities. So for instance, a couple of years ago, just after the pandemic, I just wanted to take my mom out,
Mhm.
because we've traveled so often. I said, I want to take her out too. So we planned a trip, and Mohit couldn't make it. And it was just Kabir, Sara, myself, and my mom.
Oh,
And we went to Switzerland and Italy. And it was amazing how Sarah kind of stepped up. It was like travel was intuitive to her
wow.
and in her blood. So the amount of involvement she showed in decision making, and I remember this instance very clearly where I was doing the travel planning for the first time myself. Otherwise, Mohit is the planner and I'm the tourist. And we had to go into Schaffhausen, or one of the waterfalls in Switzerland. And Mohit and I had gone there many, many moons ago, and I vaguely remembered which station to get off at. And we were sitting in this train and we were like, yeah, acha, next to next station hai, next to next station hai. Where suddenly Sara got up and said, Mom, it's not the next to next station, it's the next station. Because see, it says north of the falls,
Hmm.
or North Rhine Falls or something like that, the station name was. And she said, you have to get off here. And I just listened to her and we got off there. Whereas I would have otherwise gotten off at Schaffhausen, which would have been a 40-minute walk back. And I
Wow.
realized that we got off just near the Rhine Falls because this girl was alert.
Yeah.
And, it's like she knows,
Yeah.
she's grown up being this person who
Yeah.
knows how her way about. So I have that confidence now that if I drop her into the middle of Europe on her own, even at the age of 13, she'll be able to navigate it.
Wow. How
So even as we were staying in Switzerland, we kind of had this apartment, and the way she picked up these nuances about saying that Switzerland is a country that runs on trust.
mm,
For a young child, and she was 11 at the time,
mhm.
to pick up that the culture over here, the way I behave over here is different than when I'm in Gurgaon, because both these kids, 11 and I don't know, 8 must have been, they were crossing the road by themselves. We used to hand them the money, go to Coop and, buy the groceries and come back.
Yeah.
So that experience kind of really, I think it gives them that confidence of being able to navigate unknown situations. There's an inherent sense of agency that they've developed,
Yeah.
where they have that sense that if you put me in an unfamiliar situation, I think I can handle myself.
Right.
So that's for Sarah. For Kabir, he is absolutely crazy about flying.
Wow.
And I think we must have been on 100 flights with him. And in every single flight, he goes to the pilot and he chats with them.
Wow.
And he knows the cockpit inside out. He goes and tells the pilot about their checklist. I think now when we go into some of the airlines, because the staff is on rotation, they recognize him. Oh, this is the boy who goes and chats with the pilots. So he kind of he you put him so we'd gone for this holiday to Saint Martin, at the time of the World Cup, and that's a beautiful airport because it's right next to the beach, and you can see the plane landing over the beach. Literally, I mean, 20 feet above you.
Mhm.
Um, there were these flights which were going. After that trip, he can actually spot the aircraft and tell you which aircraft it is. And
Wow.
between Mohit and Kabir, they know half the routes of the airlines in the world, and they can look at the direction of the aircraft and which aircraft it is and tell you which flight it is. So
Wow.
they're kind of flight nerds now. So yeah, it's shaped who Kabir is as a person. So his favorite game now is some aeroplane thing which he is constantly landing and taking off, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, so now we are planning to go to Scotland in the summer, and they are doing half the planning. They figured out that they want to take the Caledonian overnight train from London to Edinburgh because it's got a lovely night compartment and whatnot. So yeah,
Now you've got
it's
three
made.
planners instead of one. So
Yeah, so I can really step back and say, okay, you book, you fix, and I'll just go as a tourist. So,
yeah. But
so yeah.
also tell us about the backpacking mama, Pooja. How the journey started, where it is right now. Do you plan to resume it anytime soon? What's happening? How did you start? How did you come up with the idea? And for our listeners who might not be familiar with your journey on that blogging platform, tell us about it.
Yeah, I have a blog called The Backpacking Mama, which is pretty much dormant right now. I started writing, I think, maybe in 2015. And Sarah would have been 4, and Kabir was about a year old, because a lot of friends and folks from Gurgaon homes would reach out to me. At that time, we used to post quite often on social media about our travels. So the people would reach out to me and say, "Oh, I'm so excited that you can do this even as a parent, and I'm so inspired." And I thought, why not write a little bit about exactly how the process works? Because
Right.
it's one thing to see someone else traveling and feel like, I wish I could do it. And quite another when you have like almost a toolkit to say, okay, this is exactly how you do it.
Yeah.
So things like, how did I manage kids on long haul flights? Or the fact that our trip planning would change because we had kids now.
Yeah.
So Mohit is absolutely nuts about watching live sport, and we've watched pretty much every single football and cricket World Cup. And before the kids, we used to sit and watch the whole match till the end and the ceremony and everything. But with kids, we tweaked. So, we knew that, okay, we have to take the pram now, and one of us will have to miss parts of the match because, when the kid needs to nap, we have to walk them around in the pram. So, those little adjustments that you have to make it a family holiday, and how Mohit went to great lengths to identify where would we would eat every day so that they were child friendly and
Yeah.
you'd have a good time. So the kind of work that we did, and of course the tips about traveling with kids and how to plan the holiday better, I wanted to talk about that, so that aside from inspiring people, I could actually help them really navigate that phase and actually have fun traveling with kids. So yeah, and I think it was super relevant till the
Yeah.
kids reached about the age of 10.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, they become their own people. And like I said, now they're in the zone where they plan themselves. So I think now the nature of the blog about travel with them would be more about the regular itinerary and not add so much value about how to travel with kids.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of right now put it on hold because it's for me at that time, traveling, parenting, they were all meshed in one because they were really young.
Yeah.
Now I think they're people of their own, and I don't really have much to add beyond the itinerary, which
Yeah.
I think there are enough resources on the web for. Plus, I don't post too many pictures on social media about the kids anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of taken a bit of the back seat.
How do you keep alive that love for writing now that you have kept the blog dormant for a while? Where do you write? What do you do about your writing?
So I do enjoy writing as well, and I've written for the Indian Express mostly. I've written a couple of pieces for them on travel. So we traveled to Bolivia in 2008, I think, the flats. So I had written about that. I've written about our travel to, I think, Patagonia as well, and Eastern Europe. So I write a few travel blogs for the Indian Express, and I write about parenting
Wow.
in the Indian Express as well. Because I think my this philosophical style of talking about parenting is something that seems to resonate with people,
Yeah.
and uh, it works at all ages. So even with teens, I can bring in some philosophy
Yeah. Yeah.
and share that with the folks. So that's where I write now.
Okay. And Pooja, I'm very interested to know because you have this very, very reflective, philosophical style of thinking and talking about yourself and the world around you. If you could sit across your pre-parent self right now, knowing what you know, having gone through what you have gone through, if you could tell her some things or one thing, what would you tell her?
Yeah, I think I did a pretty decent job. So I would say, I mean, it might not feel like in the moment
Mm-hmm.
that you're doing the right things or that everything's going to be all right. There are so many moments of self-doubt and, times when things feel like I don't know how this is going to pan out.
Yeah.
Um, but trust yourself, things will work out. So I think that's what I would say to myself, because I can, on the drop of the thing, recall so many times where I felt like how am I going to manage this?
Yeah.
How am I going to manage work and child? How am I going to manage a brain surgery? How am I going to manage two kids? How am I going to manage connecting with a teenager and making sure that she's still talking to me? How am I going to manage, being myself? But I think I would also advise myself to let go of this whole self doubt. I think, yeah, that's the one thing that I would say.
Yeah.
Of course, I recognize the amount of privilege that I have for things having worked out.
Yeah.
I'm really, really grateful for all the wonderful people that I have around me, from my parents, Mohit parents, my friends, my helpers, all the teachers who've been part of my children's lives, all the doctors who we've kind of been with, all the animals that have been part of my children's lives. So all of it, I'm really, really privileged and very, very grateful that I have that village, and things have in a big way worked out because the all of this is there in my life. But also to recognize at some level that this is the life I have created.
Right.
It's not happenstance
Mm.
that I have good friends. It's
Mm-hmm.
not happenstance that I have a great relationship with, my mom and Mohit's parents.
Mm.
It's not happenstance that Mohit and I started working on our journey as parents. It's
Right.
not happenstance that I recognized I need to grow up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not happenstance that I recognized that my children, that my daughter needed a pet at that time.
Mm.
It's not happenstance that I put aside my worry about allopathy and said, okay, if surgery is what it takes, it's what it takes. So,
Right.
yes, there will be moments of self doubt. And there is a lot to be grateful, and one can never underplay the role of the universe and luck and destiny and all of that. But I wouldn't short sell myself by saying that I had nothing to do. I
Ah.
think a lot of it is a life that I have created.
Mm.
And if I met my younger self, that's what I would tell her, that you're capable of creating the life that you want. And you're privileged to be born in times that are good.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, do the best and don't doubt yourself so much.
How amazing. How amazing. I wish you had heard that, that talk when you were younger, but yeah, but nevertheless. And also tell us, Pooja, I really feel parenting is a constantly evolving journey, as you have also, said that so many times in not so much words, but in ways that you've said that. But if there is one piece of wisdom or insight, or that principle that you stand by that has helped you the most, you would like to share with our listeners in that may help them in their parenting journey, what would that be?
I think reflecting on yourself as a parent,
Mm.
because parenting is such an active job. And if you are not wanting to only be a parent and be much more, which every person has the right to do and should do for their own self, there is a lot that's going on at any point in time.
Yeah.
And taking that pause to reflect on yourself as a parent and what your relationship with your children and your spouse are, I think is really helpful.
Yeah.
So when I pull back and I see what's happening here, it gives me insights on how do I need to tweak my view. So just as an example, I think teenage is the stage that really throws you back and makes you feel like, hello, you thought you knew it. Let me tell you about teens. And I think taking that pause and reflecting is what's right now helping me,
Mm.
navigate that time, because now I can see that, okay, when I talk to my daughter about a difficult thing, she has two responses. She will either pick up a fight about, something completely unrelated, like wanting to dye her hair, which she knows I will not allow, so that the conversation gets sidetracked, or she will start feeling extremely sleepy or extremely worried and disappear. So I have now fallen into that trap a few times till I pulled back and said, what's happening here? And I realized, okay, these are her two ways of dealing with difficult conversations. So
Right.
now I'm mentally prepared when I get into a difficult conversation, and I bring her back saying, I know you want to talk about this, we'll talk about it somewhere else. We're talking about this now. When she wants to run away and hide, I'm like, no, I know your mind is pulling you away from this conversation, but we need to talk about this. And let's talk about this now, even if you're sleepy. So I
Right.
think that just pulling back and reflecting on what's the story, what's happening,
Yeah.
helps me also realize. Otherwise, so many times I've been pulled into this sidetracking very smartly, hair dye. अब पता है उस पे तो लड़ाई होनी है. So something up, and then the whole conversation is hijacked by a hair dye, and she goes off in a huff, and I go off in a huff, feeling miserable.
Yeah.
And we have avoided the topic about going for tennis altogether.
Yeah.
So, so yeah,
Sound.
reflection is one thing that I'd say is been really helpful for me.
Yeah, this is really helpful to even hear. And Pooja, this has been such a rich, insightful conversation. I love the fact that you're so self-aware, you're so reflective, and it shows in the way that you talk, in the things that you talk about. And I really also love how you've embraced parenting as an ever-evolving, intuitive experience, blending lessons from your own childhood, books, and life itself. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Neha, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. And yeah, I enjoyed this conversation too.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so much. And to everyone listening, thank you for tuning into Parenthood with Neha. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. It helps more parents find these stories. If there is a parenting experience or topic you'd love to hear more about, drop me a message. Until next time, take care and keep embracing the beautiful chaos of parenthood.